everybody, you join me in the iDriver Classic Proton, and in this video we are going to the International Women's Day meet at Sywell Aerodrome. It's going to be an interesting day and indeed an interesting video, so if you don't like women, this video is probably not the one for you because they're going to feature quite heavily. It's going to be an amazing day. Becca of Passenger Seat Podcast has arranged it, and there's all kinds of women coming from all over the place with amazing skill sets, and I really look forward to meeting them, having a little chat with them about their journey in cars and with cars and their car that they came in today. So let's go. So you join me now with one of my car heroes because I think you're awesome. You're not much taller than me and you hang off the side of those vans doing all your affairs. You're like my hero because you're just amazing in what you do.
Oh, thank you very much.
And all the bilingos, like Bella's got a name now because of your bilingo.
Oh, yeah. It's like a trend.
Tell us a little bit, this is Sylvester, the Scirocco. Tell us a little bit about Sylvester.
So Sylvester's my first classic. I've had him for nearly 5 years now. I wanted a classic for quite a while because I started going to like local classic meets and I got a lot of FOMO. So I was like, I need a classic car. I just kept looking and I thought about Golfs and stuff like that. And then I was like, I just really love the shape of the Scirocco, and you don't really see them as much.
No.
Golfs. I mean, they are sort of getting popular again now, but it was just always Golfs you'd see. And then it was actually one of the guys who runs the meets that I went to was selling this, and it ran a bit rough at the time, but it had about 2 weeks MOT. But yeah, I paid £1,300 for him, and we've been inseparable ever since, basically.
Oh,
and
brilliant.
I've done all the work myself. Brilliant. It was standard. I can't leave anything alone, so now it's not standard. It's on coilovers and polybushes, so it's a very firm ride, but you can chuck it into corners and it just sticks. It's got the Clio 16-valve wheels, the white steering wheel, which causes a lot of controversy, perhaps. Some people love it, some people hate it. A lot of people are confused how I keep it clean.
Funnily enough, Leanne and I were talking about it the other day, but Katie has clarified she wears gloves, so we're okay, and she's a very clean mechanic.
Yeah,
so
I always wear gloves at work.
fine.
I don't take this to work. You know, I always get in it when I'm clean. I have a box of gloves in the back in case I need to get it in it with dirty hands. Then I also have the original wheel in the back and tools just in case I need to swap it for any reason.
Yeah. So it's very much, it's your first classic, but it's very much your classic, which is lovely, which is how it should be.
Yeah.
And we were just talking about Whiteland and their 240, Monica, and it's just awesome.
I just love
what you do with Sylvester. You know, you're making him very much the car that you want.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your journey with cars, as a woman in cars.
Yeah. So it was kind of bred into me. You know, both my parents are into cars. My dad's been into cars forever. My mum was actually originally into scooters, and then has gone into cars through my dad. She was the first female member of Trojan Scooter Club in Morecambe. So that's a cool fact.
Yeah.
But my dad was actually a big Ford guy when I was a kid, and I was a big Ford person as a kid. You know, it was always about Ford, hate Vauxhall, Ford's the best, and all this stuff. But then, ironically, I've never owned a Ford.
Oh, really?
But yeah, they had Mondeos. And like my dad was always modifying cars. Our Mondeo was lowered. It had, you know, fancy wheels. It had a big, loud, stupid exhaust.
Yeah, my dad had a Mark IV Cortina estate that he put some stupid engine in.
Yeah. So it's kind of weird to say, but it's actually Mondeos that got me into cars.
No, that's a respectable entry into cars.
And then when I was 16, I started my apprenticeship at a VAG specialist. And then that's where the love for VWs came from. It was kind of funny because I kind of just completely dropped Fords and came to VWs. It's been bred into me, basically. And I've always wanted to be a mechanic because my dad had a friend who had a garage and we used to go there on weekends, and I just loved being there and around the workshop. Like, anytime I go somewhere and there's a workshop, I'm drawn to it. It's like my home.
Oh, yeah, you probably wouldn't without. Slightly a bomb site.
Well, yeah.
But that's really awesome. So you just went straight into mechanicking from school. Awesome.
Yeah. I had my year 11 prom on the Thursday, and I started my first day as apprentice on the Friday.
Fantastic.
So, yeah, it's just something I've always wanted to do. And teachers would be like, oh, you know, you should go to university, you should do A-levels and stuff like that. You know, you'll be wasted as a mechanic. You know, I had an English teacher he was like furious with me that I wouldn't go and study English at university, and I'm like, no, I want to be a mechanic. And then actually, as I was leaving school, we have our like leavers books, and he wrote a little comment, and he came round and he's like, you know, good luck as a mechanic. I hope to see you in F1 one day and all that stuff. I was like, I don't think I'll reach those heights yet, but
you never know.
Yeah, it's just something I've always wanted. I just sort of decided when I was a kid that's what I want to do, and
Yeah, I'm going to ask the cliche question. How do you find it as a woman, female mechanic?
But yeah, it was funny because growing up, I never thought I was different from being a girl into cars. I wanted to be a mechanic because my mum and dad just always encouraged me to just do whatever I wanted to do, within reason, obviously. It wasn't until I actually started working and but even with the people I worked with, and I was the only girl at college, but all the guys were fine with me. And it wasn't until I started dealing with customers that I started realising that this is actually unusual and people might not be happy with it, especially now that I work in vans. On the commercial side, we also do our own breakdowns. So I attend breakdowns and people think, what the hell are you doing here? I've had it before where, I didn't realise women could change tyres and stuff like that. And it's
God.
like, well, you can't because you've called me out to do it. So it's stuff like that,
And isn't this your dad's car?
Yeah, I had that at a car show once where I was with my mum and dad who were in George, the Audi. And he's like, oh, so whose is this? And I was like, mine. I was like, oh, do you like to say it's yours? I'm like, because it is mine.
No, they didn't say that.
Yeah, and he was like, oh, is this your favourite? I think, to be fair, he was quite old. I think he just thought I wasn't old enough to drive.
Yeah.
But I'm like, no, I'm 25. Like, this is my car. So, yeah, he just would not have it that it was my car. Like,
well, thank you very much, Katie.
no, thank you for having me.
Thank you. And, I just think you're brilliant, so keep doing what you do. So, guys, I'm joined by Kaz and Jen, who have just been on a really, really exciting adventure.
We went on a 1,000-mile trip in cars like this one included.
I wonder why I've chosen this one. I think.
Which are under 1,000cc, and we bought them for under £1,000.
And why were you doing that journey?
It started off as just an adventure, just a trip. It was kind of a thing to film, to get some content out of it. We chose a charity that's actually ended up being, although initially just close to the sort of Jake and I, it ended up actually being quite close to a member of every single team, which was quite nice. And which is Currents and Colitis UK, and we have, as of this morning, raised £1,000 for them as well.
So that was your target,
that was our target, just to keep the thousands
really
going.
Well done. So I got to ask, how you travelled in the Daihatsu, didn't you?
Yeah.
For 1,000 miles. How did you find it?
Oh, really nice and comfy.
Yeah?
Yeah, it just as soon as you're on the motorway, it just eats up the miles.
So we're here at the International Women's Day meet, and can you tell me a little bit about your journey as women within the car world?
Personally, it's relatively new, 2021-ish, it's a couple of years. But actually, I've been going to car shows since day dot. My dad is still massively into cars, and will love the fact that he's getting a shout out on there.
Hi, Genevieve!
And but we used to do mini shows and stuff like that growing up, and then it transformed into Triumphs and Land Rovers and all sorts of different things over the course of the years. So I've been to car shows, car museums, all sorts for my whole life. So yeah, just involving myself personally has been a relatively new thing.
Sort of come into the car scene since 2009 when I had a classic Mini as my first car. But my stepdad's really into his classic cars, particularly the Marcos. So I'm used to going to Marcos shows as a little kid, and anything to do with any old clapped out classic car. Most of the cars that we've owned have basically fallen apart. So yeah, it's just an experience of having a car and like dealing with the issues, and then meeting up with other people that are in the same boat or have got nicer versions.
So can you tell me a little bit about the Daihatsu Sirion that you have brought with you today?
It's beauty.
I know.
I'm not really a car specialist. Got air conditioning.
Yeah, this is the thing. Have you got the electric windows and all that
All
stuff?
4 electric
It's
windows.
just awesome, isn't it?
And a parking sensor. It's very quiet, but it works.
I know I'm a little biased, but these Daihatsus have so much. If you look at the cars that they were in the market with, and they were like basic, just awesome little cars.
Yeah.
Not that I'm biased.
And you don't have to have your legs chopped off just to sit in the back either.
No,
It's
they're
great.
so comfortable. Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Kaz and Genevieve. Genevieve, we'll talk about your car as well, because that is one of the fuel power fleet. So we just had a little chat with Jen over by the Sirion, and now you've brought this member of the fuel power fleet. So who is this?
This is Doran.
Doran?
Yes,
Awesome.
Doran. It was named after my nan, who was called Doreen, but they had a bit of a misspelling on some of her papers, and because she contributed some money towards buying it, I thought I'd name it after her.
Oh, that's lovely.
She never actually got to ride in it, which was a bit of a shame. But so she's She's there. I've got a penguin. She was big into penguins, and her penguin keyring perfectly matches the colour coordination as well.
Absolutely, it does. Absolutely. So, what is Doran?
She is a Fiat 500 2009, I think, off the top of my head. She's not a twin air, is all I know. 1.2. I get asked that question all the time, and it's like, nope, she's not twin air. I've just started as a project manager, or assistant project manager, not project manager. I'm not quite there yet. With the lovely Mr. Pink, who is obviously very well known in the weird car twister
The man
world.
with two saunas.
Yeah, the man with two saunas. She'll be taking me up to the office, although I will be working from home, but yeah, she's going to be my little
Brilliant.
working commuter vehicle as well now.
Superb. Great. Well, thank you very much. And
You're
thank
very
you, Doran. So, you've now joined me with B-Dub Hev and your car.
This is Silver Beauty, but we just call it the R32.
What an artistic name. This is Silver Beauty, guys. The R32. Cool. So, tell me a little bit about your R32.
Well, I've had the R32 about 6 years now. I didn't mean to buy an R32. I was looking for a Mark 5 Golf GTI, and this came up in the same sort of price bracket, and I foolishly went to drive it, and I knew once I'd driven it once that was it. I was going to have it because it was awesome.
Yeah, that is the problem, isn't it?
So this is definitely the midlife crisis car, which has been going on quite a few years now. But
Oh, cool. Ride those midlife crises as long as possible. I am all for that. So tell me a little bit about your history with cars and your journey with cars.
Well, originally I never wanted to learn to drive. It wasn't for me. No.
Can relate.
And a friend of mine bought me a provisional license for a birthday present for my 18th, I think it was. And I thought, well, I'm going to have to learn to drive now. But to be fair, it was probably the best thing I ever did. I've had a few cars, not many, because I tend to keep them all. I find the ones I like and then I keep them forever. But I suppose it was the Martin Golf GTI, which I've had for 22 years now, that really sort of got me into the car scene. That changed everything. It changed me. It's saved me on more than one occasion. It sort of opened doors to different sort of walks of life, events, people, endless opportunities, and I wouldn't be without it. It's going nowhere. So even though I bought the midlife crisis today, had it been a bit warmer, I'd possibly have brought the Mark 1 Golf.
Okay. Well, it's nice to have a nice, comfortable car when it's a bit,
Oh, definitely.
chilly.
Yeah,
A little
definitely.
bit chilly. So you are involved in running a car meet, aren't you?
Yeah, I do meets and I do events. I do a fundraising event called Hereford and Worcester Auto Fest, which is going to be the 6th event this year, later on in August.
Well, have you set the date? Could you
Yeah,
do a little plug?
13th of August at Stoke Prior Sports and Country Club. Proceeds raised on the day will go to On-Side Advocacy, who support isolated, disadvantaged and vulnerable people in Hereford and Worcester.
Oh, brilliant. What a good cause.
Yeah, I volunteered for the charity for years. I've worked for them for about 5 years. Everyone does their bit, because funds, especially now, funds are just non-existent, so you try and do as much as you can to raise a bit. I thought, well, what can I do? Because, I can't cook, so there's no point me doing a bake sale. I'll give everyone food poisoning. I can't sing. I'm rubbish at quizzes. You don't want me on your team, but cars are kind of my thing. So I thought, well, I'll just put on a little show, and this little show has just grown and grown and grown and grown and grown. Very proud of it, and it's a good mix. Like today, it's for everyone. It's not just, I don't want just Volkswagens or whatever. It is for everybody, and it brings a lovely mix of people. I think if you're a proper enthusiast, you can respect what other people are doing with whatever they've got, really, and real sort of enthusiasts will sort of accept others regardless. And I think for the future of meets and events to carry on, you need to be sort of broadening that horizon. But I'm really passionate about sort of getting the younger generation involved in the car scene. And it might not be that they might not like a Mark 1 Golf. I mean, I will talk to them about that. I will do my best to say, actually, a lot of these older cars are pretty damn cool. But I think it's important to get them involved in the scene, and the industry as well. And I think the older generation have a lot to give. Their skills, their knowledge, their passion, and the meet that I'm involved with has people of all age ranges. But even some of the older attendees, they've got a lot to pass on to the younger generations.
Because they're the generation that kind of would do you fix your car every week, you check the oil or you check the tyre pressure, and you do that every week.
Yeah.
And that very quickly gets lost.
Definitely.
If you don't listen to what they've got to say. Okay, Okay, well, thank you very much.
That's all right.
And you've got a little plug in there as well. But yeah, with COVID and everything, we live in a very rural area, and people very easily become isolated. And it's so important to give them support. And it, like you say, it's just not readily available.
No, and that's what, through our charity, that's what we do. That's why, so some events will be, they might pocket money. That doesn't happen with ours. It's all going there. I mean, yes, it's a lot of my time and a lot of effort to do it all by myself. But apart from, I must say, some fantastic volunteers on the day that come and help me. But I would, it's my way of giving something back to the community as well, because we all think we've got someone that we can go to or whatever, but that's not always the case, is it? So we do what we can really with that.
Brilliant.
So. Anyway,
thank
sorry,
you very much
I should have plugged
sharing the silver beauty and your journey and so on.
And lovely to finally meet you
nice
as well.
Nice to meet you. Yeah, it's weird. It's always you tweet each other and stuff, and eventually you meet people. It's weird world in which we live. But thank you very much.
No, thank you.
Thank you. Now we are joined by Samantha and Chloe and Mildred. Can you tell me a little bit about Mildred, please?
So Mildred is a 1995 Mondeo GLX. This was a car that we found on Facebook Marketplace after I'd had a bit of a sad time with a Gear X project I'd had. And it was £900, which was surprisingly cheap for any car with an MOT. But I was really drawn by it. The velour seats in this car are amazing. Somebody here actually said it looks like a mermaid pattern, actually. And I'm like, yeah, it kind of does. I was really drawn to it, and because my granddad's basically had loads of Fords throughout his life, so many Mondeos, Granadas, you name it. Don't think he ever had a GLX though, so this is a bit different. So we decided to look at it, and it's the most solid Mondeo I think I've maybe ever seen. There's so little rust, actually.
Does it have any duct tape, as is characteristic of a
It doesn't
Mondeo?
have the mandatory duct tape, actually, which was quite rare. I mean, people could argue there's a crack down there that probably needs it, but I like the pure look. I like to not conform to the trends of the duct tape. Not to mention, I don't think petrol blue duct tape's a thing, is it? See, if it was silver, my dad always says you wanted a silver one, then you can get the silver tape. Plastic's aged as well, 90s plastic.
Yeah.
Anybody who owns something 90s French, guilty, will know.
Early 2000s also.
Yes, it kept going. It kept going.
So what about you? What's your journey within cars and so on? Not literally.
So, we just came up the road today.
Yeah.
No, so you initially weren't really into cars, or at least not like kind of tinkering and stuff.
No, I'd never really had the upbringing to be involved in cars in any way, shape or form. I've always liked cars, and now I'm getting the cars of my childhood, but I never had the ability to do anything at home. So when eventually I did learn to drive, I got a Mark II Renault Clio and kind of drove it so much and did very little to it because I just didn't have the ability to do anything. Then you came along and
Took one look at it.
yeah, then obviously everything changed, and from that point onwards I've slowly been learning more, which has been fantastic.
To be honest,
it just takes that one person to kind of change your direction of what you actually want to do. And now, I've had, you said to Steph, I had 7 cars in the last 4 years, which,
Rookie numbers, I'm sure.
well, yes, very much so, but
Getting there.
cars that I love. I replaced the Clio with a far better, far older Clio that I love and adore and would drive anywhere.
The thing is, it's interesting you say about learning, because although I had a 1980 MGB GT in 2016, I did most of it with my dad, and I kind of struggled a little bit with it. And when the car sold in 2017 due to bad financial times on my part, I didn't touch another car again until we had a Proton 1.3 GL that's owned by my friend Kez, Ruffian Cars on Twitter. That was the first time I'd really got back to a car, because I did a little bit on the Clio that you had, but it was so modern I didn't really know what to do with it because it was so computery. When I got back onto the Proton and stuff like that, that was... I'd lost the spark when the MGB went, but when the Proton came back, I got a spark back that I'd obviously had waiting, but I need something to ignite it, because my dad's been a mechanic hardcore with old cars and whatnot. His Triumph, Jag, you name it, that sort of classics like that, Rover. He loves that sort of thing. So I've always had a passion for it, but it was very difficult to ignite the spark initially, because me too, I didn't really have the space to do it. I didn't even have the tools to do it initially. Luckily, my dad did help with that eventually. So in a way, we actually did sort of learn together, because I knew the basics, but since 2020, I've learned a lot. I mean, and then for you, since 2020 as well, you've learned the whole shebang.
I learned a hell of a lot, and stuff that I never thought I would even remotely learn. You know, I know the Mondeo is gone, but just doing brake pipes, which, you know, to a lot of people is a very easy job, but for me to be able to do the flaring and everything else was a huge success, and one I will kind of cherish. So
The thing is, this car is actually going to need them soon.
yes,
so.
I know. Well, they'll all need them at some point. So, you know, the fact I can do them is fine.
So if you suddenly decide, you know, after you've done like an engine rebuild or something like that, even if you've just, you know, replaced a little part, you just sort of step up from a little bit further, because, like, you know, some of the first jobs you did and you're now taking an exhaust off a car. I mean, that would have been unthinkable a couple of years ago, wouldn't it? I mean, we're just starting to pick each other back up, and that's one of the things that's nice about Weird Car Twitter. We keep each other going. We pick each other up. And we keep each other whenever we feel down. It's just like, no, there is a future here, and it's a fun one. So we look out for each other and we keep them safe.
We do indeed.
That's lovely. Oh, that's really profound. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So
No worries.
Chloe and Mildred, thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure to be here.
So we are here with Jessica, and your car. Would you care to introduce us to your car?
Well, this is my 1997 Nissan 180SX, which is a Japanese domestic version of the 200SX that we got here in the UK in the early 90s. But this is a later one, it's a 97, and I bought this from Japan 5 years ago and had it imported for little old me, and I've had it ever since. It's sort of always been my bucket list to have to import my own car from Japan. But yeah, no, it's definitely the whole car thing it's a passion for me as well as a career. About 10 years ago I took on a mechanics apprenticeship and sort of worked on from there in the car world, and worked in a few different workshops for a few different companies, and these days I'm sort of doing my own thing. I'm trying to start my own business and do my own YouTube videoings on my channel, which is called Scrubworks, where actually I did a video series 5 years ago of importing this very car, actually. And more recently I'm doing stuff on my Morris Minor project car, which I'm trying to make into a sort of little B-road Stormer hot rod sort of thing.
Gosh, that's quite a difference, a Nissan and a Morris Minor.
Yeah, well, my car taste is someone once called it eclectic, which I think is fair. It generally spans between old Japanese stuff and old British stuff, and we've had a few other things in there. I've got my old Ford Mustang 1966, which is sort of the old one out in a way, but I really like owning that car.
Fantastic. Oh, that's brilliant, Jessica. Thank you very much for your time and introducing us to your beautiful car.
Yeah.
Absolutely stunning.
No problem.
So, in true HubNut style, this interview actually disappeared. But this is the lovely Becca of Passenger Seat Podcast with her beautiful Morris Minor, Peggy. Peggy has had 6 owners and seems to gravitate towards Peterborough. And it seems that she was fated to be Becca's car because she passes the homes of 2 of the previous owners on a regular basis. I believe Peggy is her first classic. Her family have a long history of owning classics and so on. And Becca, with regards to International Women's Day, decided that there needed to be a women's car meet. So the little idea was bubbling in her head for a very, very long time, and she made it happen, and it was utterly amazing. So she arranged with Sywell Aerodrome for this event to happen, and created stickers and bumper plaques and all kinds of things, and it was absolutely wonderful. So Becca, I am so sorry that this interview disappeared. I'm sure you'll see some amazing stuff on her channel, Passenger Seat Podcast, as she was interviewing people in the back seat of Peggy, which I can confirm is very, very comfortable. But thank you very much, Becca, and once again, I'm sorry this interview disappeared. So as you can see, I'm on the train home from the International Women's Day meet. It's been an absolutely fantastic day, and as a bonus, my journey home is going much better. I'm currently on the train between Shrewsbury and Aberystwyth. It's only been 2 trains versus 6 trains yesterday and a bus, so it's going much better. Yeah, been an utterly fantastic day. So positive. I learned lots of new things about people that I already knew because they were so open to talk in that space. It was a safe space, and I hope that you guys enjoy the video. It's a different perspective of things, so it's not, yes, the cars are in there, and yes, the women talk about their cars, but it's more about them and their journey as car women. Yes, thank you very much for watching my little excursion by my very own self. I am now headed home to Mr. HubNut and HubNuts. I'm hoping they haven't starved to death. I don't think they have. There was a mention of pizza this evening, so anybody concerned for their welfare, they're fine. But thank you very much for watching, and hopefully we'll see you in another HubNuts video, HubNut, HubNotes, wherever this is going to go video soon. Bye!